He was rich, powerful, untouchable. She was the nanny who raised him with love. Then he forgot her. Years later, he found her, sleeping on a shelter floor. Alone, cold, forgotten. In that moment, his past came rushing back. And what he did next shocked the world. Welcome to Hearts and Billions, where the rich meet the broken, and one moment changes everything. Love, loss, redemption, all in one story. Subscribe to feel every heartbeat. Please kindly take me to 1,000 subscribers. When Daniel Wolf was a little boy, his house was big, quiet, and cold. His parents were always busy, meetings, trips, business calls. They gave him toys, money, and the best schools. But never time, never hugs, never bedtime stories. But there was one person who made that big house feel like a home. Her name was Eleanor. She wasn't his mother, but she held him like one. She wasn't family, but she loved him like her own. Elena was the nanny who sang him lullabies, cooked his favorite meals, and stayed up with him when he had nightmares. "Don't cry, Danny," she would whisper, rocking him gently. "I'm right here." She packed his lunch, fixed his buttons, and clapped the loudest at his school plays, even when his parents didn't show up. He called her Miss Elena, but in his heart she was more than that. She was his safe place. She always wore the same soft blue sweater, smelled like vanilla and tea, and had a voice that made everything feel okay. For years, she was his whole world. But then, one day, she was gone. Daniel was only 10 when his parents told him Elena had to leave. No goodbye, no explanation. He waited by the front window for days, hoping she'd return. She never did. And as the years passed, the memory of Elena slowly faded, buried under success, money, and the noise of adult life. He didn't know where she went. He didn't even ask. Until the day he saw her again, in a place he never expected. Years passed, and little Danny Wolf became Daniel Wolf, one of the most powerful businessmen in the city. He owned companies. He sat on boards. His name was on buildings. Everyone respected him. Everyone wanted something from him. But deep inside, something was missing. Daniel didn't laugh much. He didn't trust easily. And though he had everything, he still went home to silence. No wife, no kids. Just more money, more meetings, more empty rooms. He never talked about his childhood. Not the loneliness. Not the woman who made it bearable. Until one day, during a late interview, a reporter asked, "Who raised you?" Daniel paused. He wanted to say, "My parents," but the truth slipped out. "Her name was Elena," he said quietly. "She was my nanny, my real family." The reporter smiled. "Do you still keep in touch?" Daniel looked down. His chest tightened. "No," he whispered. "I don't even know where she is." Later that week, Daniel's company was preparing a donation to a local women's shelter. It was a PR move, nothing emotional, but something. Told him to visit it himself just once. So he did. And that one visit would change everything. Because inside that shelter, behind tired eyes, gray hair, and worn clothes, was the woman he hadn't seen in over 20 years. Elena, the woman who once held him when no one else would. It was supposed to be a quick visit. Daniel Wolf didn't expect anything meaningful. Just a few handshakes, a photo for the papers, and a donation check. His driver waited outside as he stepped into the women's shelter with his assistant. The halls were dim. The walls were old. The air smelled like soup and dust. A staff member gave him a polite smile. "Would you like a tour, Mr. Wolf?" He nodded. "Sure, let's make it quick." They walked past bunk beds, laundry lines, and tired faces. Women sat quietly, reading or folding clothes. Some smiled. Most avoided eye contact. But then he stopped. A figure in the corner, asleep on a thin mattress, caught his eye. The blanket was small. Her clothes were faded. Her hands, though wrinkled, were gentle, folded over her stomach like someone who used to care for others more than herself. And then he saw her face. His breath caught in his throat. The staff member kept walking, but Daniel couldn't move. He stepped closer, knees trembling. She stirred. Her eyes blinked open slowly, tired, clouded. But then they widened. "Danny?" she whispered, barely believing what she saw. Daniel dropped to one knee beside her. "Elena?" he choked. "Miss Elena, is that really you?" Tears filled her eyes as her hands reached up to touch his face. "You're so grown," she whispered. I prayed I'd see you again, but not like this." Daniel's heart shattered. This woman, who once rocked him to sleep, who packed his lunch and bandaged his knees, was now lying on a shelter mat, with nothing. He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice shaking. I didn't know what happened to you." She smiled weakly. "It's okay, baby. I knew you were busy. I just wanted to know you were safe." He couldn't speak. He just knelt there, a billionaire in a $1,000 coat, holding the hand of the woman who once held his whole world together. And in that moment, he wasn't Daniel Wolf, the CEO. He was just Danny, the boy who had finally found the heart he lost. Daniel still couldn't let go of her hand. He didn't care who was watching. The cameras, the reporters, even his assistant had gone quiet. None of it mattered. All that mattered was the woman in front of him, the one who had once been his whole world, now sitting on a thin mattress with tired eyes and nowhere to go. "Eleanor, what happened to you?" he asked softly, barely above a whisper. She gave a sad smile. "They let me go. One day your mother just said my services were no longer needed. No warning, no goodbye." Daniel's chest tightened. He remembered that day. One morning she was there brushing his hair and humming. The next she was gone, no explanation, no farewell, just silence. "I looked for you," she said gently, "but rich families don't leave forwarding addresses for nannies." Daniel swallowed hard. "I didn't even know they fired you." She reached up, touched his face with her thin fingers. "It's okay, Danny. I always knew you'd grow up to be something great. I watched you on the news. I kept a photo of you in my purse until I lost the purse." He looked down, ashamed. "While I was building companies, you were losing everything." She squeezed his hand. "But I never lost hope, or my prayers. I prayed for you every single night. I always told the other ladies here, my boy is out there somewhere. He's gonna do something special." Tears streamed down Daniel's face. The staff member cleared her throat awkwardly, unsure of what to do. "Mr. Wolf, shall we continue the tour?" He stood up slowly. "No." He looked around the shelter, then back down at Elena. "I'm ending this tour right here, because I'm taking her with me." Elena blinked. "Danny, you don't have to." He cut her off gently. "You don't belong in here, Miss Elena. You belong with me." "You always did." He turned to his assistant. "Call the car. Cancel the rest of my day." As he helped Elena to her feet, the other women in the shelter watched in silence, some smiling, some crying. And as they walked out into the sunlight together, Eleanor whispered, "I knew you'd come back." And Daniel, no longer the untouchable billionaire, nodded. "I should have come sooner." The ride back to Daniel's penthouse was silent, but heavy. Eleanor sat beside him in the back seat, wrapped in a warm blanket his assistant had rushed to get. She stared out the window, not at the tall buildings, but at the sky, as if trying to stay calm. Daniel glanced at her. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly. "I'm just trying to believe this is real." He looked down. "I can't believe I let it get this far. I should have looked for you years ago." She gave him a soft smile. "You were just a child. You didn't owe me anything." "But I did," Daniel said quietly. "You were more of a mother than my real one ever was." At the penthouse, Elena's eyes widened as they stepped into his massive glass-walled home. It was spotless, luxurious, and cold. "Wow," she whispered. "It's beautiful, but it feels lonely." Daniel stood still. That one sentence said everything he had never admitted to himself. "It is," he replied. "Until now." He guided her to the couch, brought her tea, and sat beside her. "Tell me everything," he said. "Please. What happened to you after they let you go?" Elena sighed. "My husband Jorge was already sick when I lost the job. I couldn't find work that paid enough. I cleaned houses, watched children, anything I could. But when he passed away, I couldn't keep up with rent. I sold everything." Daniel clenched his jaw. "I slept in bus stations, then a shelter. I tried not to be bitter. I told myself, as long as you were okay, it was all worth it." Her voice cracked. "I had nothing, but I never stopped loving you, Danny." Daniel couldn't hold back anymore. He dropped his head into his hands, ashamed. "I failed you," he whispered. "You gave me everything. And I forgot you." Elena reached over and touched his hand gently. You remembered today. That's enough. But to Daniel, it wasn't. He knew this wasn't just about bringing her home. It was about making it right. Not with money, but with honor. Daniel couldn't sleep that night. He sat alone in his study, lights off, city lights glowing behind the tall windows. His penthouse was silent, except for the sound of Elena gently snoring in the guest room down the hall. She had fallen asleep with a smile on her face, but he was wide awake. Memories swirled in his mind like ghosts, her voice singing lullabies, her hands buttoning his coat, her laugh when he spilled cereal all over the kitchen floor. And then just gone. No goodbye, no warning, just gone. He stood and opened a drawer filled with old photo albums, something he hadn't touched in years. And there she was, Miss Elena, holding little Danny at the zoo, at the beach at his 7th birthday party. Her arms always around him, her eyes always glowing with love. He flipped to a photo where he was crying, and she was kneeling beside him, wiping his face. That image hit him like a punch to the heart. He slammed the album shut. The next morning, Daniel sat across from his parents at their country estate. The room was full of expensive art, crystal glassware, and cold air. His mother sipped tea, barely looking up. You wanted to speak? Yes, Daniel said, voice tight. About Elena. She raised an eyebrow. The maid. Daniel stared at her. She wasn't the maid, she was my family. His father cleared his throat. Daniel, that woman was part of the staff. We paid her fairly. When her contract ended, we let her go. Simple. Daniel slammed his hand on the table. You fired her while I was at school. You didn't even let me say goodbye. His mother looked unfazed. You were too attached. We thought it was best to move on. You thought it was best? Daniel stood now, trembling with emotion. She gave me love when you gave me silence. She raised me when you couldn't be bothered. And you left her with nothing. His father snapped. She was just the help. Daniel's voice dropped, cold, sharp. No, she was my mother when you weren't. And now she's living in a shelter because of your choices. His mother scoffed. You're being dramatic. Daniel took a breath. You erased the best part of my childhood. And I let you. He turned and walked out without another word. Back at the penthouse, Elena was in the kitchen making tea. Daniel stepped in slowly. She turned, smiling. Want some? He nodded but didn't speak right away. Then softly he said, They don't even feel sorry. Elena placed the teacup down and gently touched his cheek. Some people never do, she said. But you do. And that's what matters. He stared at her, this woman with wrinkles on her face, warmth in her eyes and grace in her soul. He didn't just want to say sorry. He wanted to show it. Starting now, Daniel had spoken to CEOs, world leaders and investors worth billions. But this speech, this one, was different. He wasn't just standing in front of a podium. He was standing in front of his past. The press conference. The media room at Wolf Enterprises was packed. Cameras, reporters, flashes. Everyone expected a business announcement, maybe a merger, maybe a scandal. What they got instead was silence. Daniel stepped onto the stage in a simple black shirt. No designer suit, no tie. He looked tired but focused. He stood behind the microphone and breathed. Then he spoke. 25 years ago, a woman named Elena helped raise me. She brushed my hair. She sang me to sleep. She taught me how to love before I ever knew what power was. My parents let her go without warning. I never got to say goodbye. I didn't know what happened to her. I thought she was okay. Last week I found her in a shelter, sleeping on a mat, forgotten by the world, forgotten by me. The room was silent. Not a single shutter clicked. This is my public apology to Elena for forgetting her, for not searching sooner, for becoming a man she wouldn't recognize. Until now. He paused, eyes glassy. Today I am giving her a home, but more than that, I'm giving her name the honor it always deserved. He turned toward the side curtain. Elena, he said gently, come stand with me. She stepped out, slowly, nervously. She wore a soft blue dress. Her hands shook slightly, but her smile lit up the room. Gasps filled the room as she stood beside him. Daniel took her hand. I'm also announcing the launch of the Elena Grace Trust, a foundation in her name to support nannies. caregivers and domestic workers who are too often forgotten. He looked at her. You gave me love when I had none. I'm giving you legacy. After the speech, the video went viral in hours. Billionaire honors childhood nanny in tearful apology. Who is Elena Grace? The woman who raised a CEO. The press conference that left the internet crying. People around the world sent letters, flowers, and support. Other billionaires spoke up. Some admitted they hadn't even known the names of the women who raised them. In a world full of noise, Daniel's voice had broken through, and at the center of it all stood Elena, not forgotten, not silent, but finally seen a week after the press conference. Elena stood at the gates of a beautiful cottage, nestled in the hills above the city. The sun was setting, golden light danced across the porch. Fresh flowers bloomed in the garden, wind chimes swayed gently, and Daniel stood beside her, smiling softly. "This is yours now," he said. "Everything you see." Elena blinked, stunned. "Mine?" Daniel nodded. "You never had a home of your own? So I built one, just for you." Inside the cottage, Elena stepped into the living room. It smelled like vanilla, just like the cookies. She used to bake for Daniel when he was small. There was a rocking chair by the window, a bookshelf filled with poetry and photo albums. The walls were painted soft blue. On the mantel sat a framed photo of Daniel as a child, hugging Elena with his gap-toothed smile. She gasped. "I remember this day," she whispered. "It was your 8th birthday. You dropped the cake and cried. So I made pancakes instead." Daniel smiled. "That was the best birthday I ever had." She walked slowly through the house. The kitchen was warm and open. The bedroom had a handmade quilt. The bathroom had flowers, slippers, and soft towels. Everything was chosen with care, with love. "I don't deserve all this," Elena said softly. Daniel stepped forward. "You deserve more than I could ever give you." A new beginning. That same week, the Elena Grace Trust launched its first program, a support grant for retired nannies and caregivers. Hundreds of women applied. Some cried as they filled out their forms because for the first time, someone saw them. Elena visited the office one afternoon, wearing a soft blue cardigan. She greeted every woman by name. She hugged them, listened to them, encouraged them. One reporter called her the mother of the forgotten. And Daniel? He sat in the corner of the foundation's office and watched. She wasn't just his nanny anymore. She was a leader, a legacy, a light. Elena's new home was beautiful. But it wasn't just the walls or furniture that made it special. It was the people, the laughter, the second chance. The house became a home. Every Sunday, the staff from Daniel's foundation came to visit. They brought their children, their stories, their worries. Elena listened to them all, with her tea kettle always warm, and a plate of cookies ready. Some called her Miss Elena, some called her Grandma, and every one of them felt like they had known her forever. Daniel's sister. One rainy afternoon, Daniel arrived with a young woman and 2 children. His estranged sister. They hadn't spoken in years, but when she learned about Elena, she asked quietly if she could visit. When Elena opened the door, her face lit up. "Lily," she whispered, "you still remember me?" Daniel's sister asked. Elena pulled her into a hug. "You used to hide cookies under your pillow." Lily laughed and cried. Her children ran into the house and climbed into Elena's lap without hesitation. That day something mended, not just in Daniel's family, but in their hearts. Evening peace. Elena would often sit outside in the garden as the sun set, humming the same lullabies she once sang to baby Danny. Now grown Daniel sat beside her, sipping tea and resting his head on her shoulder. "Your father would never understand this," she replied with a wink. He chuckled. "You know, I think I finally understand what family really means." She squeezed his hand. "It's never been about blood. It's about who stays." Elena had raised one boy who became a man, and now, without even trying, she was raising a new generation to love softer, to lead kinder, to never forget those who lifted them first. The garden was quiet. The sun had just begun to set, painting the sky with soft orange and gold. A breeze moved through the flowers. Birds chirped faintly in the distance. Elena sat on her favorite bench beneath the tall tree Daniel had planted for her, the tree of grace, they called it. Her hands rested gently in her lap. Her face was older now, softer, but her eyes still held the same warmth, the same light that raised a broken boy into a kind man. Daniel sat beside her, silent for a long time. He wasn't the busy billionaire today. He was just Danny again, the boy who used to hide behind her legs when he was scared. The boy who never said goodbye. The man who came back. He cleared his throat, but emotion caught in it. You ever wonder what would have happened if I never found you that day? Elena smiled. No, because I always knew you would. He looked at her, eyes glistening. I don't think I would have made it, Elena. Not really. I had the world, but I was empty inside. You reminded me what love looks like, what home feels like. She reached for his hand and held it tightly. And you reminded me I wasn't forgotten. Daniel blinked hard, trying not to cry. I missed you. I missed you too, baby, she whispered. Then came a pause, and a whisper so soft, so full of peace, that it wrapped around him like a blanket. You came back, Danny. Those 4 words broke something open in his chest. He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. I'll never leave again, he promised. Not ever. Later that evening, Daniel sat alone on the bench, watching the wind move gently through the branches of the tree of grace. Children's laughter echoed from the distance. Volunteers walked by planting flowers. The foundation was alive. Her name was everywhere, but her voice, it was forever in his heart. A few weeks later, a small plaque was added beneath the tree. In loving memory of Elena Grace, she raised 1 child and changed hundreds of lives. And just beneath that, engraved in Daniel's own handwriting, you came back, Danny. Elena. And with those words, her story was complete. But the love she gave would never end.